All right, all right. What's up? This is another episode. All praises to the Most High, the God, the Creator of heaven and earth, who allows me to be here. Today, we have a very strong topic that has permeated existence of marginalized people and empowered the existence of colonizers. I am your host, Emmanuel Dion, and this is Unraveling the Onion. Today, we're talking about white Jesus, the idol that colonized the mind. So, tonight we are dealing with white Jesus and the idol that colonized the mind. This isn't any level of just surface race talk. This is deep. This is about image and worship, power, obedience, identity, and of course, always covenant. Um, the Torah, and I'm going to use this term often because this is my anchor, right? You are more than welcome when you see this right here, think tank in session. You are more than welcome to chime in with your own thought process, but this is mine. And this, when it comes to unraveling the onion, this is our community think tank. All right. So you're going to hear me say this word, Torah. What does this word mean? This is the law of the Lord. This is the first five books of the Bible. These are your do's and your don't. And this should be I believe, right, that this should be our inner governing system. It is the governing system that I use to judge all things. So the Torah already gave us the foundation to not make the image of the Most High or the image of anything in likeness thereof. I am not equating Christ or Jesus, Yeshua, or whatever name you may go use to address him or name him, right? I'm not equating him to the Most High, but we cannot deny that this image has been used as an image of worship, right? And within those books, it tells us do not bow to graven images, do not replace the invisible Elohim with the work of men's hand. But colonization did something wicked. Let's just be honest. It gave conquered people an image of God that looked like the conqueror. Then, after that, it proceeds and it continues to teach obedience to the conqueror and equating that as obedience to God. So, tonight, we also have a special guest with us, as you can see on the screen here, Brother Uriel. And we are going to be talking about, he is going to also bring his experience to the table, not just theory, right? So his story is going to put flesh on the whole conversation because the issue is not only historical, it affected real homes and real churches, minds and children and identity. So tonight we're asking the hard questions. Did colonial Christianity bring our people closer to God of Israel, or did it give us a painted idol, a broken identity, and a religion stripped from Torah? That is up to you to answer. Once you see this on the stage, these are the rules of the game. Once you see this, I am looking for feedback, and I will put a link in the chat where you can chime in. Boom. And also be mindful, please like, share, help us generate the algorithm to get this going so that we can grow our platform and show up in other people's algorithms. All right. So we can do some algorithm friendly things. All right. So my question to the room, when you hear the name Jesus, what image comes to mind first? Scripture or a painting? When you hear the name Jesus, what comes to mind first, scripture or painting? And you all can answer in the chat. Scripture or a painting? When you think about the image, what comes to mind first? Or when you think about Jesus, what image comes to mind first? Do you think of this? Let me go to it. Let me get it very quick. I thought I had it on here. Let me add it real quick. Video. Give me 1 second. Is this what comes? So I put in, it's kind of moving fast. I put in a word search. I don't know if you can see it up there. I just put in man that looks like Jesus, right? And this is the image without prompting it with something that is saying, anything denoting color, race, or creed. This is what comes up, right? This is Google. And even when we are dealing with something like movies like Book of Clarence, I don't know if y'all saw that, but it was hated. I did not hate the movie. I actually thought it was pretty cool because I was able to see the real color of Hebrews. I was able to see us in our real form. like like it was the most accurate depiction. But here's the thing. White America white America hated white America hated that image. It hated that image. It hated the movie, right? Absolutely, it hated that film. So we understand that something deeper is going on. Because if I was to release a film right now, if you all were to release, if we were to release a film right now, let's say we depicted everybody, let's say we had Black Christ, Black Jews, Black everybody. How well do you think that movie would do? How well do you think it would do? So somebody said, is this a channel for milk? I guess. If you wanna label it that way, I don't label it that way. It's an open discussion where we're talking to people about these things, right? It's personal experiences, right? So what we are doing is we are looking at the experiences that we've had. So we talk about different things, and we engage the crowd with a lot of different topics. All right. So let's start with where we are now. Most of us did not first meet Christ through a deep study of Torah, prophets, covenant, Israel, or obedience. Most of us were handed an image. We saw the image in children's Bibles, churches, church windows, Sunday school posters, funeral programs, painted in grandma's house, Catholic art, Protestant art, movies, and church walls. And that image usually looked European. Right. Milk and meat all here. Absolutely. It's milk and meat all here. Absolutely. This is a way that we can engage with conversation on a lot of practical things, and we can bring people's experience to the table, right? This is people. How did this affect you? If it affected you at one point in time, or are you just some people make it to a point where they forget where they came from, and they forget that these things, that you were there once yourself. So a lot of times people come with a inflated sense of self, and they forget that they were there once their self, and they didn't know these things. So maybe that was you, and you could speak from that experience. So that matters because images teach before words do. So a child can absorb an image before they can understand doctrine. So if every holy image is white, every angel is white, and every prophet is white, and every divine figure is white, then the child is being trained without anybody saying a word. Whoever controls the image often controls the imagination. Image and imagination. And once you control imagination, you influence how people see God, authority or holiness, leadership, beauty, and themselves. And we can see that on a deeper note, how it permeates even our own society with how we view our own image, the things that we do, the surgeries that we have. So we have to ask ourselves, where did the image in your mind come from? Right. And when we look over time, I'm pretty sure that image that is on here at some point in time, at some point in time, we were able to see this in our grandma's house, in our grandfather's house, or in some elder person's house where this was the image that we had. And before we knew anything, if you know anything, before we knew anything to even challenge this image, this image played a very crucial part, because not all Black people relate with the Bible. A lot of people have abandoned the Bible for this very rhetoric, right? A lot of people have now say, you know what? We were ancient Egypt, and they say we're Egyptians, we're ancient Egyptians, we're Nubians. How many times growing up in the night, especially for those who are familiar with 90s hip hop, right? Who are familiar with what's the show? What's the show? A Different World, and all of these shows, right? These shows would address each other as my Nubian queen, my Nubian sister. Well, you know what? I lived in Egypt for how long? Shucks, 3 years. And I had the opportunity to meet Nubians, and let me be the first to tell you, if I'm the first to tell you, we ain't them. And I had the opportunity to ask a Nubian, well, why do you think Blacks in America think that they're you? And he said, I don't know. He said, you all's muscles are different. We can't do what you do. Your makeup and your build is different. And not only that, but I don't really know, maybe someone can provide that information, but I don't know what that migration would have looked like, because I don't know if there's any historical record of that happening. So, quick question for you all. When you were growing up, what did the image of Jesus look like in your world? And where did you see it first? What did it look like in your world? Did you see this in your grandparents' house? Did you see this within television? I know I did. I remember 17 years old in the living room by myself. Nobody was home, praying and asking God, or wishing that I was a Jew. Man, I wish I was them, because they seemed like they had it so good. Little did I know. little little did I know. Or did you ever question that image as a child, or did it just feel normal? Or what did the image communicate to you, consciously or not, about who had authority and who was holy and who was in charge? So the think tank question. Let's go to the think tank session. This is where we open it up. And Uriel, you're more than welcome to come off to chime in anytime you're ready as well, brother. You can come off of mute as well. And thank you so much for joining us on today. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join the conversation, and also tell us about your experience as well.
Hallelujah.
Oh,
Hallelujah. Appreciate you having me out.
yeah, for sure.
Want to First and foremost, I want to begin by giving all praise, honor, and glory to the supreme intellect of the universe, the God of our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. I greet you in the tongue of our ancient forefathers and say to you and the chat, Shalom Aleichem, family. Shalom Aleichem. Um, Man, this one really hits home for me. Um,
Hmm.
I grew up not entirely in the church, but in a Southern Baptist environment.
Mm.
So, we was in the church just about as often as everybody else. You had your big three, your Christmas, your Mother's Day, your Easter, and then you had to hit the anniversary. But my grandparents, my grandmother specifically, was more of a religious type, I could say. It still is to this day. So that whole scene from Good Times where
Yeah, yeah. I don't know why I didn't pull that. Why didn't I pull that clip? I didn't even think about it.
uh, it's real, man. That's life, man. Because I lived it. I lived it. From a youth up, I grew up with that image of Caesar Borgia and never questioned it. Never thought about it because it didn't really matter. I was more concerned with the people I was looking at and how that didn't exactly line up with what I was seeing in the text.
Mm.
That's the story. But when I was probably about 14, I was about 14 years old, 14 to 15, when I came to the realization of, you know, there was, I think I was talking to a Nawapian or a Muslim. I don't remember which of the two, but, we started breaking down Christianity, not just the Bible, but Christianity in and of itself in the white evangelical sense. And it was like, man, what has this done for our people? What have we gotten from it? And
Mhm.
the brother brought out that this was us. This was our culture back in the day. Blacks or Muslims. So, oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, sure. We should be Muslims because yeah, it is over there and in that region. And it wasn't until 4 years later that I made the connection that hold on, wait a second. If the Muslims look like us and they got the same daddy as the Israelites,
Right, right.
ain't that So it was years down the line when I finally came to the to made it to the end of the book and got to the revelation, and it was like, oh well, man, this is us. This is woolly hair. I got woolly hair. This matter of fact, my mom was yelling at me about my woolly hair just earlier. So you know what I'm saying? I can't question that. So where's the disconnect? And who was this man up here?
Right,
So it was it was for me those moments where it was like, man, this has really been, no pun intended, the wool pulled over our eyes.
right.
And
Absolutely.
the sad part is just like you said, man, when that movie The Book of Clarence came out, people are so indoctrinated with the lie,
Yeah,
the false image. I'm gonna say it like that. The false image has been exalted to a point where we've worshipped it so much that when you present the truth to the people,
yeah,
they're offended.
yeah,
They're insulted. This is sacrilegious. This is blasphemous. It's like, oh, well,
yeah.
hold on, wait a second. Accurate.
Right.
we see that, and then the crazy part is that's what another group of people. I'm not naming names, because there's people that look like you and I who had the same reaction. But I do find it funny how there was uproar about that, but when the real image is presented, well, now we have a problem. But I noticed none of us had a problem for all these years with this image. Nobody's in an uproar about this Caesar Borgia being incorrect. Nobody's in an uproar about that. No, we're not turning over tables. We so connected to it. Dan Brown can write a book around a picture that some
Right.
artist fabricated, and people are calling that sacrilegious. We get to a point where we're so indoctrinated that, man, we're so far from the truth that we're upset about the lie and the lie about the lie. So it's, for me, it's very personal, um, because even to this day, like I said, that was almost 30 years ago when I came to the conclusion of what the image should look like. But at this very moment, at this juncture, even now, when somebody says the letters Jesus, the image that pops up in my mind is not the one from Nazareth.
Wow.
The first image that comes up is that dude.
Right. Right. This
You know,
cat. This cat.
him. Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
homeless man.
Yeah. If you were to see, right, right. If you were to see this, if you were to see this image, right, most people when they see this image on the street, they're gonna walk up to them and they're gonna say, "You look like Jesus." Nobody's gonna say that for somebody with a black man with hair like wool that is white, right? Nobody's gonna say that. So and also too, I'm kind of jumping a little bit here, but some data that I had that I received on this because I think leading with data, we like data. We're a generation that loves data because the data is the hard proof, right? We can look at it, we can draw our own conclusions, and we can know it's real, but it doesn't feel as real until you give data to it. So this is this is Warner. It says Warner Sallman's Head of Christ is one of the key images beyond modern white Jesus. Right? It says Anderson's University's Warner Salmon collection says the image has been reproduced more than 500 million times. So that image, this image right here, that this has been reproduced more than 500 million times, according to his publishers. By 1944 alone, publishers reported 14 million single pictures had already been printed. So, white Jesus didn't become normal because people read the Bible and found his face. It became normal because the image was produced. So one painting was reproduced over 500 million times. So that's not revelation. That's just distribution. So here's another fact. A psychology study by Simon Howard and Samuel Somers found that exposure to an image of white Jesus increased white participants anti-black attitudes compared with exposure to black Jesus. So I'm gonna say that one more time, so we digest it. It found that exposure to an image of white Jesus increased white participants anti-black attitudes compared with exposures to black Jesus, a church image or a non-religious object. The study also found the effect was tied specifically to white portrayals of Jesus, not simply white male images in general. So there is another stat here. Stanford reported research led by Stephen Roberts showing that when you as Christians imagine God as a white man, so when Christians imagine him as a white man, they are more likely to rate white male job candidates as better suited for leadership than black or female candidates. In one study, researchers analyzed Google image results for God and found that among human form images, 72% depicted God as a white man. So this also okay, here's one more. This is one I was looking for. Howard's Tufts dissertation found that 3 out of 5 experiments showed subliminal exposure to white Jesus imagery led both white and black participants to express greater racial bias against black people, even after controlling for religiosity. So what that's telling us is Black people also practice bias against black people when they digest this image even subliminally. So, meaning if it's at your grandma's house and you saw it and you just walked by, you weren't even paying it no mind. If it popped up on TV as a commercial and you wasn't even paying it no mind, it was paying you mind because it was helping control how you think and how you filter information even without knowing it. That's huge. That is humongous. So when we look at, the effects of how black people treat each other, black men treat each other, I don't give a damn about how everybody else treat each other. I don't give a damn to for people to say to me, well, white on white crime. I don't give a damn. We're not supposed to be doing it at all. Leave the leave the percentages that is happening to everybody else, and let us like not do it at all. You understand what I'm saying? Because we're supposed to be a different people, a people that's elevated an example to the rest of the world. So um so I would dare to say that this has played a part in how we deal with each other and us not looking at each other as the image of God. We'll hate the God above us. We hate the God above us, so we hate the God in us. Or if we misconstrue the God image, then we'll also deal with each other misconstrued as well. We don't deal with each other like we're worth the respect and time. And this image, whether it played a crucial part in your life and when you went to church, or it was on the stained glass when you went to church, or it was that image with him spread out and like this, and whenever you think of who died on the cross for you, whenever you think of who sacrificed themselves for you, you're equating it to a white man when they are not the ones who are going to lay down their life for you. Matter of fact, they're going to make sure you lay down your life for them. It's going to be opposite, right? So when we equate that, and we equate that to godliness and holiness and righteousness and salvation, I think that's a very dangerous position to take. Okay. So
Man,
go ahead. What you want to say about?
nah, I'm just co-signing. That's just
So
the,
praise the most high. So my questions, if the image you grew up with turned out to be historically inaccurate and politically manufactured, would that change your walk with the most high? Did, did it change your walk with the most high when when you answer this question, you look at the question, right? If the image you grew up with turned out to be historically inaccurate and politically manufactured, which we've already kind of established that fact, right? And we're able to see that, how did that change your mindset, how you dealt spiritually, and how did that change your mindset on how you dealt carnally? And when I say carnally, I mean here in the world with your fellow man or woman, and how did that change your spiritual perspective? I put this up so I can get some feedback, and I will put it up. And I'll put this in the chat as well. Anybody would like to join and chime in, you're more than welcome to join and chime in.
man. That's it's funny now. Um, but I got to be honest. For me, initially it was a kind of duh, and at the time I wasn't really dealing with Christianity like that. To be completely transparent,
Mhm, mhm.
well, what I mean, clearly, yeah, they lie about everything else. So, um,
Right.
uh, but I think by the time I had made it to the point where the light bulb finally turned all the way on, and it was like, hey, dummy, if you saying that these people are the same people that are your people, then what are you saying? And so for me, when I had that realization, I think that was the moment where I can't even say it was Malcolm X or Training Day. I would have to say it was Man on Fire, Denzel. Um, anybody that had anything to do with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's
I
the
want
immediate
all.
that's the immediate reaction. I was kind of angry when I found out.
Yeah, for
I was
sure,
angry.
for sure.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm way more calmer now, but I was upset. I was angry.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right. I can't even. I'm not even going to use the verbiage that more accurately describes my particular emotions and how I was feeling. But I was hot. I'll say that because they got my stuff.
right,
They got my stuff.
right.
Uh, but man, it was a paradigm shift like no other because I man, it was an image I was trying to find it of it was a white actor who visited Kenya and uh, I'm thinking to myself, man, look at how silly they look. And in that moment of me saying how silly they look, I can't help but take a step back and go, man, how silly did I look?
Mm,
How how silly, man? Like I was very adamant. Even understanding that not everything is accurate, understanding the geography and the location and the time period and how things don't entirely add up, but still hesitant to question what I know
mm-hmm.
and what I don't understand. So there is a certain level of ignorance, but there is a certain level of frustration even at my past self for being able to make such what I perceive now to be a simple mistake that was so costly.
Mm. So when you say a simple mistake that was so costly, what do you mean? Expound on that, and what is it that you encountered?
For me, it was the idea that I was able to be deceived,
Mm,
and it was for no other reason than and I remember when we first met, we was kind of on the same tip
yeah,
of walking in Christianity. You know what
yeah.
I'm saying? Trying to get our Bible on, but one of the scriptures that comes to mind is First Peter chapter 2 verse 15, First
You,
Timothy chapter 2
you
verse
can you can
15.
you
Man,
can,
said,
you can pull it out.
I,
What First Peter 2:15?
you
You can pull it out if you like,
know what I'm saying?
because I see you itching because you didn't grabbed it. You can go ahead.
Yeah, I'm like it was the I'm not even gonna go that far, but the simple process of us trying to do the right thing and the simple concept that was put out to us, man, study to show yourself approved.
That's right.
Had
Yeah.
I that with an open book test, I got the answers right here.
Right.
Answers right here. Like how stupid you got to be to fail an open book test. And to be able to do something so foolish in my eyes after the fact is like, man, how did I miss that? How could I have missed that? It was right there in front of my face the whole time. And all I had to do was read. I had to do a little bit of research, a little bit of studying, and it would have been, man, right there. So for me, it is a little frustrating because it was simple. It was very simple. All I had to do was read and study, but it didn't necessarily make it easy to do.
Right. Right.
Just because it was simple, it wasn't exactly easy. But um, you know, uh, man,
Yeah,
there's so much.
I can relate to that. When I first, now that the memory is being provoked in me, I remember the feelings that I had. I think the feelings that I had, I felt duped, I felt bamboozled, I felt betrayed, I felt deceived. I felt like I've been me this whole time and not knowing who I am. I don't know. I think that's a major thing. Some of the times when I talk to people and I talk to random people, which I do all the time, and I ask, like, this past weekend I was talking to a guy and I said, and I asked him, what kind of shirt you got on? He looked down, he said, Nike. I said, I said, you know your address? He said, yeah. I said, how old are you? He said, 45. I said, you knew all of that before you ever knew who you were. I said, you knew the name of your clothes. You knew the name of your address. You know the name of everything else around you, but you don't know the body that you live in. And that's deep. That's so for me, when all of those things are hitting in your mind, it's like there's not a psychologist, there's not a therapist, there's not a man or a woman that can docile or really relate to that thought when it actually hits you. Hold on, this has been me the whole time, and you've been lying to me to keep me docile. So it also taught me this. There's only one reason for a lie. And I you know where I'm going with this?
Mm-mm.
The only reason for a lie is the truth.
Mm.
So if I look at where all the investment is going, if I look where
Mm.
all the energy is being spent, right? Then that and there's a lie there, it's only for a certain reason. I remember
Mm.
and earlier on in YouTube, what attracted me more to the truth was when I heard it, the YouTube page would get shut. I said, "Oh, it's something here. They're afraid." So them shutting down the YouTube pages made me pursue it that much more because they weren't shutting down other YouTube pages. Now they don't do it anymore, right? Maybe they learned from their mistakes, but now they don't do it anymore. So I can definitely relate to that. I think when I first started to see that, it made me angry. And another infuriating thing, to be honest, was when you talk to somebody else about it and you're the only one who's awake and aware. That part. And nobody thinks what you're saying has any importance and they don't care. You understand? They don't give a shit. So they do they throw it behind them as though it's nothing. But the thing is that you have a whole race of people who are claiming to this to be these people. Revelations 2:9. It says, I know thy works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich, and I know the blasphemy of them which say that they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. So there is an importance here. Somebody thought of you enough to steal the identity that doesn't belong to them. So, and then I started to think like this. Well, nobody steals something that has no value.
Come on.
Why would you
Come on.
steal something of no value? The only reason you're stealing, for the most part, right? We're not talking about the one-off kleptomaniac. We're just talking about the majority that run up in the bank, right? The majority that sees the $500 in your purse and they take it. Why are they taking it? Well, it's because it's $500 and they find value in $500. So when I looked at that and I saw that they were stealing something, I knew that they were only stealing something that was of value. And then I turned to the people who have the actual value and I talked to them about that value, and majority of them dismiss you as though it's nothing. Why? Because they've been conditioned to think that way. They've been primed to think that way even before the information hits them. So when it does hit them, they've already been given the defense mechanism to reject it, right? It's no consideration. But here's the thing, and this conversation is taking a mighty toll different way. So I was not planning to go this direction. But here's the thing. When when you talk to people about it, they've been so indoctrinated and they accepted this narrative with no proof, right? No proof whatsoever. These people come, they claim, they repeat it, they say it over and over again, and they say it over and over again. But when you come with the same claim, they don't have any proof, the same no proof, the equivalent, no proof, it's rejected.
Come on.
I think that's a mighty lesson in conditioning, and I think that their propaganda work, because propaganda is just a lie or something that you repeat enough until it's accepted. So
Yeah.
let's go to the next part here. So I always like to give some level of foundation, right? My foundation is Torah, and the reason why I point to these things in the conversations that we've had before is to show that without these borders, you're gonna gutter. You're gonna find yourself in the gutter. You're gonna find yourself in the gutters. You're gonna find yourself in a hole. This helps prevent us. This is that gate, right? And I constantly can show this to show where if this standard to compare. What did Paul say? He said, "I had not known what sin was had it not been
But
for the law."
not
So once you
oh,
right, so once you introduce this standard, then it bears as witness and a testimony to uh, what is being testified to, right? Whether that's your situation, if you are, if you're being verbally abusive, I just use this one because this is the one that I find so common. But if you're being verbally abused, if somebody is being verbally abusive, they call you a fool or stupid, then I know that they don't have the Torah within them, because the Torah regulates that type of talk and behavior that I see so readily. Right? So the Torah helps give a standard to help avoid certain things. This is Exodus 20, 24 and 5. It says, "Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above or that is in the earth beneath." This is Deuteronomy 4:15 and 16. It says, "Take ye therefore good heed unto yourselves, for ye saw no manner of similitude, lest ye corrupt yourselves and make you a graven image." And that is what has happened. So when we look at these things, so let's I'm gonna ask you a question, Uriel. Um, and I think from your testimony, I kind of um know the answer, I feel like. So when you
mhm.
first encountered that commandment, seriously, did it feel like a threat to what you were raised in, or did something click when you got introduced to these words that I just read in Exodus and Deuteronomy?
um, for me, I don't think that image came to mind. To be truthful, I think there were a lot of other things. For me, first and foremost, I think the man in the mirror certainly came to the top of the list. Um, but I think it also made the list. I don't think it. I don't think it wasn't on the list of things that I had when I considered that verse. Simply because, man, that's what we do. We joke, but if I look out my window right now, there is a giant T, lowercase T, in the yard of the church that's got a bunch of land, and so I'm not sure why they have a lowercase T. I'm led to believe that it's a representation of something. Um,
That, that's
but
that's a part two. That's a part two. Go
um,
ahead.
but for me, I think that more than anything, because I think, and this is a little sidetrack, but I
No, go
think
ahead.
for us, we the cross more than we worship the reason for the cross, everything after the cross, the point of the cross. Like we just get to the cross and stop. That was where they told us to stop. They didn't tell us nothing else. They said, hey, just don't forget about that old rugged cross, not the new man that you were supposed to become or anything. So for me, that was the biggest thing when I consider that specific or those specific verses. But I do draw similitude between that and Daniel. When Nebuchadnezzar creates this golden image and he calls everybody to bow down and worship it. And now they don't have a set time where you need to bow down or the king will destroy you. Now we do it willingly. So I draw more similitude between that. Um, in that image, in that sense.
Yeah, yeah. And now that you brought up the cross, what do you understand about the history of the cross? Do you know the history of the cross?
Not entirely. No. I
That
mean, I'm
is that is
familiar with it being.
that's fantastic because it actually coincides with what we're talking about. If you look up, so I wonder if anybody in the chat, if you all know the history of the cross, what it meant at that time, what it meant at that time, right? So, and y'all can put it in the chat. I'll go ahead and continue here. Okay, let's say 500, let's say 1,000 years from now, right?
Mhm.
Say 1,000 years from now, there's a different society, right? Let's say I'm standing up for my people, right? I'm standing up for my people. I'm like, look, government, we not gonna keep taking this, right? And they take a noose and they put it around my neck and they hang me. And then 1,000 years from now, everybody wears a noose. What is if I was to wear a shirt? Let's say I wear a shirt with a noose on it. What would that be a symbol? What would that communicate to us within this society that we live in right now? You can answer your what would that communicate if I walk around with a noose on my shirt? What would that communicate to people?
I'm gonna be honest with you, Ak. If you was to walk around with a noose on your shirt, you better have a vest thrown up underneath it. Oh,
Right, right, right. Well, here's the thing: the cross is the exact same thing. There is no difference. Because once you understand that these people were black people in ancient Rome, the Romans were not allowed to be crucified. This was for niggas. This was for us. You understand? And Christ wasn't the first to be crucified. He was to be crucified for a reason that was abstract from everybody else. So he was to be crucified for the sins of others. But even Barabbas, right? Barabbas, it says he was for the insurrection. When you look up the word insurrection,
right,
that means
right,
uprising. That means he was a Nat Turner. That means he
right.
decided to rebel. And once he decided to rebel, they put him up for crucifixion because that was what they did to us. That was our noose, right? So even they would even it got real brutal because if you look at it, that was one of the most brutal ways of dying. They would actually crucify and hang men upside down, and they would take you might, yeah, small kids might want to edit this part, but because I'm about to say it, I'm just giving you a heads up. But they would actually nail their penis up too when they were nailed upside down. Okay, so this was a brutal way of dying that was aimed at us and us acting right, and so that's why when you look at Barabbas and his insurrection, it speaks to the conditions that they were in, how harsh they were. Because if you know that that's the punishment, and you say that I'm going to rebel anyways, how bad is the condition to where you're going to rebel anyways, knowing that you could be crucified if caught? Okay, so even the cross itself is a is a racial sign that we don't even know that we digest subliminally, because nowhere in the Bible does it tell us to honor this symbol. The symbol is the death that Christ died for us, and he was resurrected for us, right? He was resurrected, the firstborn of the resurrected, and that is okay, and that's good enough. We don't need a cross. And I know what you because in the Torah it talks about worshiping wood and stone, and now we worship the wood, which is the cross, and the stone, which is Kaaba. The two major religions uh, is Christianity and Islam. And both of these things are for what we have for Western colonized Christianity, not the Christianity that survives in the Bible, because technically, I would be considered a Christian, you would be considered a Christian if we were alive in those days, right? So that is not to say against the Eastern original Christianity, but it is to push back against the Western colonized Christianity. Even furthermore, if we go to the slave Bible, okay,
Mm,
the slave Bible. Are you familiar with the slave Bible?
man, I got a copy of that bad boy
What?
on my hard drive.
Yeah, man, the slave Bible did a number. The slave Bible did a number. It took out, I'm looking for it. It took out so much, right? It took out so much. But here's the thing: Western Christianity is in alignment with the slave Bible. Why? Because it dociles any uprising. It does not touch on identity. Christianity forbids identity in it. Like, you can't go into Christian, even those people who are black who identify as Christian, for the most part, I can't say all of them, but for the most part, who identify as Christian, also war against themselves. Why am I saying war against themselves? Because you're us too. Like, you find all these different things. You find all these different things, and people are talking about, against the Israelites and against the. It's like it's like saying against the Negroes, against the black people, against the African American. Nobody in their right mind would say that, but they quantified the bloodline with religion, and so therefore they missed the whole thing. You understand what I'm saying? Um,
Mhm.
with the slave Bible, I'm looking for it here. Give me one second, because I have the data for the slave Bible, if I can find it.
Um, I did a quick Google search here to,
Go
because I
ahead.
remember I have it somewhere, but I don't know where it's at. I think Brother Divine Prospect pulled it out and brought it out. But what I
Okay.
have here is from Google. Um, um, this is the AI overview, so it's subject to incorrectness. But
Okay.
it says the Bible, selected for the use of the Negro slaves in the British West Indian Islands, 1807, removed roughly 90% of the Old Testament and 50% of the New Testament
Wow.
to prevent rebellion and encourage submission.
Wow. Yep. And that's why I would argue that the parts that the slave Bible left in are the parts that largely agree with Christianity. Even though it may be covert in nature, is still the same narrative and doctrine, and kind of alignment with things, how they push it in a lot of different ways, right? Because it's largely cherry picked. Okay. um so when we look at even Christianity, we can see that it's still largely white. 61% of U.S. Christians are non-Hispanic white, down from 70% in 2007. It says, and 66% in 2014. Among evangelical Protestants, Pew reports 70% are white, while only 7% are black. And this is where I was touching on earlier, where I was touching on, I was kind of touching on the fact that it has caused our people to be more rebellious against it. Now we're more so into crystals, chakras. We're more into um, Egyptology, um, everything but the Bible, which is the Bible is literally the most pro-black book on the face of the planet.
That
It is a black book. It depicts itself as the people of it as being black. It fights for black liberation. It promotes black self-knowledge, wisdom, understanding, connection with the Most High. It does quite a bit. So when people discover white Jesus was false, the instinct is often to replace him with a black Jesus image, right? And that is often what we do. But Torah already judged the image center approach, so we don't need to repaint the idol. We need to tear down the idol and return to the word. John 4 and 24 says, God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and truth. Okay. So to our guests, did our guest journey. So when you first heard the white Jesus argument, did your instinct become we need a different image, or like a different, because that's what a lot of people go to. A lot of people go to you know, let's make him in the likeness of different cultures, right? I've heard that argument before. Let's make him in the likeness of different cultures so that other cultures don't feel minimalized or marginalized by that narrative. So what do you say on that?
I'm gonna be blunt. Uh, so in case you got sensitive feelings and you listening right now, brace yourself. Um, I don't, and it sounds bad. I don't too particularly care about inclusivity, right? In the representation,
Mhm,
as much as I care about accuracy in the representation,
mhm,
right? Um, so, I mean, and it's like I say, this is one man's opinion. If if the roles were reversed, which in our minds it was, there's no pushback. We don't need a gay Jesus. I heard somebody say that. We need a gay Jesus and a Mexican Jesus, and so we know all these people are welcome. And I agree that the people themselves are welcome. Um, but you got to leave some of that back there. You know what I'm saying? The same Paul who says there is neither Jew nor Gentile nor male nor female when it comes to Yeshua HaMashiach. He's also the same one that says, now this message goes to the Jew first and also to the Greek. So there's still a delineation between the difference of, hey, this is still, this belongs to a certain group of people and we can't take that away. And I think that's what we do when we start doing these other things where it's like, okay, everybody needs a Jesus. Let's give everybody a Jesus. That way everybody feels comfortable.
it's crazy.
And man, I'm glad I did not feel comfortable in my sin. I'm glad they didn't bring a ignorant a ignorant Jesus, in the way in which I was ignorant,
Right,
to make me feel comfortable staying where I was. And I had to switch and say, okay, well, if this is the only way to get to the Father, I need to go this way and look like him.
right,
Um, so for me, it doesn't bode well when we start and crafting the image of the creator in our image. It's backward. That's hustling backward, like we say. You know, Genesis chapter 1, 26 and 27 is the creation of man, and I think it says that the Most High created mankind in His image and
right.
likeness. That word there is Beit Selmenu, which literally comes from the word Selim, which
Mhm.
is a shadow. It's a shadow. So it's like I cast a shadow on this. So my shadow is going to look like me. It's not going to look like nobody else. When I start trying to make me look like the shadow, I'm missing a lot of features.
Right,
It's not going to be an accurate depiction. I'm
right,
gonna leave that. I'm like that.
right. Absolutely. Um, do you all that's online? Do you all feel like this has played a crucial part in your life or in your upbringing? Right, and the reason why I say upbringing is because, like, for instance, if you let's say I'm growing up in a time of segregation, right? Or a time in really hyper racial type of environment, right? And when I'm walking with my mom, or when I'm walking with my dad, and there's a white person walking down the sidewalk, and my mom tells me to step to the side, and my mom tells me don't look at him in his eyes, look down, right? And I'm a little boy, and I get this type of programming inside of me, right? And so now when I grow up, you don't have to mom doesn't have to tell me that anymore, because I've already been trained to understand that you don't challenge the white man, and you look down, and you step to the side when he's walking through, because he's superior and I'm inferior. Now I grow up, right? When I grow up, we no longer have um the that level of racial tension is starting to come down. But I teach my children, and I say to them all of these woes about how to get along in the world. Well, you don't want to get out there and start doing all that protesting, because I want to make sure you come home. Or when you get pulled over by the police, make sure you cooperate. Don't do anything crazy, because I want you to come home. When you start talking in an interview, or when you're talking to police, we don't even who has ever been taught to code switch? Has anybody sat you down and gave you a lesson on how to code switch? Or did it
Crazy.
come naturally?
Man,
So
come on.
when we look at those type of things, and we say, okay, well, nobody actually sat down with me and told me this. Nobody put that in a book for me to know it. It just kind of seems innate. So I call these blind spots, and blind spots are things that you could have got from generation to generation, that you just were they're so embedded in society that you don't even realize that they're there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know, we do this all the time, and we talk about it all the time, and we see these things within society, but we don't have a clue on the origin of why we got it and why it's there. So that's why I asked the question, do you all think that this is something that has affected life, affected how you were raised, affected how you were taught to handle situations within public, so that you will not be categorized as, uh, as rebellious, or a hood nigga, or unintelligible? You understand what I'm saying? So is that something for you? How about for you, Uriel? Is that something that you think that subconsciously could have been attempted to pass down to you, or something that you adopted at some point in time in life, like even unbeknowingly?
I can say as a matter of fact, not even speculating that yes, it was. You know, I spent most of my time being raised by my grandfather, who
Mhm.
was raised by his grandmother, whose mother was a slave.
Mm.
So, you know, it's not that far removed. And the brother Captain Tazariak brought something out, and I give credit where credit is due. Um, he brought out a study that was done on mice, and it was the Japanese cherry blossom. So y'all can look this up. It's called the Japanese cherry blossom experiment that they did, and they exposed these mice to the scent of cherry blossom. So you know they how they do their experiments. They got the mice in the little cage or what have you. But when they exposed them to the scent, they shocked them. So they drew them to the scent. Okay, cool. They produce this scent, and then they deliver an electric shock. Okay, cool. So they continue doing this until now the mice begin to have an adverse reaction to the scent. Okay, so now there's no longer a shock happening, but these mice are having an adverse reaction.
Wow.
It gets deeper. They then take children of these mice, don't deliver the exact same experiment. They solely expose them to the scent of Japanese cherry blossom, and the children have the same averse reaction or adverse reaction that their parents did,
Wow.
never being exposed to that experiment. It went on for 7 generations. They just have this innate reaction to this scent, and it's in them now simply because this is something that their parents experience, and their grandparents and their great grandparents and their great great grandparents and their great 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 grandparents experience. They didn't experience it themselves, and now here they are dealing with this. Like, man, I don't even know why I feel this way, but I do. So the sister, Dr. Joy DeGruy, she she released a book called Post Traumatic Slave Syndrome. And if anybody can get a copy of that, I encourage you to get your hands on it, because she explained a lot of things like code switching and like some of the ways that we interact with one another. And it doesn't have anything to do with what we're looking at. It's things that are passed down to us unknowingly and unwittingly that even our parents don't understand that they pass down to us. Our
Yep.
grandparents don't understand. So, I personally, to make it more personal, I'm kind of a rebel. I don't know if y'all noticed, but my government name is that of Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And they say that a name holds power. Whatever you were named speaks to the character and the nature of who you will become. And I've always been that type of person who sees oppression and doesn't choose to look the other way. I don't like bullies. I don't like you taking advantage of somebody. So for that to be innate in me,
I was like that too as a kid.
you know what I'm saying?
I
Like,
was the
hold
exact
on,
same
wait,
way. That's funny.
pick on somebody your own
Yeah,
size. So
I
I'm
got
like,
in
what
a lot of fights I got into wasn't even because of me. It was
that part. That part. You know what I'm saying? Like, hold on, wait, I'm not, you might be twice my size, but I bet you ain't gonna walk away the same way. I promise you. I am.
right,
Um, but but I think the struggle with with being in the house of my grandfather was he came from a generation where it was like, hold on, wait a second, either you a rebel, and he was standing there when brothers were killed, when the Panthers was out there on the block and they took them out. So he has a different vantage point of like, okay, look, either you're gonna be that, and that's how you're going to end up, or we could just sort of coast through the system, because I don't want anything to happen to you. So
right,
the struggle was like, man, I see what you're doing, I see what's in you, but just calm down. It's not. There's better ways to do things. Let's
right,
not buck the. Let's not overthrow the system. You're just one person. Um, and it's hard to get that. I still don't understand that. It doesn't register to me, because I read somewhere that one shall put 1,000 to flight.
right.
You know what I'm
So
saying? If I got one more with me, you know what I'm saying? If
right,
it's 10,000, it's time to, so that, but it does have that effect on us unknowingly, but also, just like you said, that code switching. I still catch myself doing it to this day. Um, to this day, I still, uh, I switch it up every now and again. My cousin calls it the Kanye West white woman interview voice. Um, when you, when you switch it up, like, well, yes, So I was thinking that partially, you know what I'm saying.
yeah,
So we have that, but I think that shows. This is just me. I think that's brilliance. I think that's brilliance because everybody can't do what we do.
right, absolutely,
You know, can't nobody do that.
right, right. So yeah, man. Man, you said some really good stuff, and I want to go to Brianna here. She said it sends a message. Personally, I refuse to buy my children white toys, even the popular characters. I return books because I open them and white characters were in them. That's powerful. It's like, how do you? I was talking to my my kids at this time, and I was trying to get them to understand some principles. And I said to them, I said, "Tell me, how do you think you'd feel if you went to the store and all of the coloring books were black girls, were black people?" And I went a little bit further. I said, "What about?" And I added some more to this question. I said, "And what about the money? What if you saw, when you looked at the dollars, you saw black people on the dollars as well?" Because that's another subliminal that we're not digesting. Because what that communicates to me is that even when you're free, even when you think you're free, you still need me for everything. That's what that communicates to me. You understand what I'm saying? You don't have anything without me. You may think your entrepreneurial skills are that cold, and I get it. You did good, but I'm still involved in this in this situation. So I asked them that, and they gave me a very a very real answer. And at this time, they were like, how old were they? Maybe like, I don't know, they were like 14 or something like that. I said, "How do you think you will feel?" And they said, "Powerful."
Mm.
So when we turn on the television, and I think I added this part to the question too, because I said the TV. When you turn on the TV and you're watching cartoons, if that was majority black, and you had the nation in your image, how would that feel? So so you know, we digest so much subliminally that we don't truly understand it. You can't really get clean until you come out of the mud. You can't really see it clear as you would like to while you're in the environment. You understand what I'm saying? So with us, we end up doing or perpetuating a lot of it, not understanding even on how we communicate on YouTube. We understand that it is not free speech.
Right.
It is regulated speech. Everything that you do within this space, it's a regulated space. You got to watch what you say. You got to watch how you say it, because it's a censored space. But we become so used to that, the rules of engagement, we play it without even knowing we're following the rules. We do it naturally. It's like something within our inner governing system pulls us back from going as far as we normally would. So, that's a really good point. It's like it's everywhere. You can't, it's everywhere. It's almost impossible to uh avoid. And speaking of it, as far as media and things of that nature, I would say black media has become even more so a thing that is hard to just get, because we're not in a day and time where we have like a Family Matters, or just black segments or anything like that. Even black entertainment television is not really black entertainment television. You know what I'm saying? Like it's the most coon it's the most coon TV. Everything that we relate to ourselves as being black is always has a negative connotation to it, whether it's hypersexualized, or it's violent, or it's criminal in some type of way. We're not really seeing, even if you watch, I find this part too, even if you watch movies and things of that nature, it's not a lot of times where you're going to see a black couple. You're going to see a
Mm.
black man and a white woman, or something of that nature, or one of the parents is dead. But you're not just seeing black unity within a televised structure. Your commercials and things of that nature is never going to give it to you, and we get so used to that imagery that we don't ever think to push back. And another reason why we don't push back is because we live in a capitalistic society, and we understand that that doesn't sell. And because it doesn't sell, we're not willing to make that type of imagery available if we're going to be investing money, or other people are going to be investing money, and we're not going to get that return. So, that's my thought process. What you think?
I'm gonna give a little pushback.
Go ahead.
Um,
That's this
like,
unraveling the onion. You allowed to think whatever you want.
and I think, uh, I think the representation and the imagery is man, you hit that on the head. So I don't want to give any pushback there because we are on the
Mhm.
same page entirely. Um, when it comes to the media, I think it's a double edged sword because I think some of the greatest rappers I know, some of the greatest artists I know, have never seen sunlight. They have never been exposed, or majority of society has not been exposed to them. And I'm talking to one right now. Um,
Oh, thank
so
you.
you know, because man, I literally was just talking about you the other day. But I'm a leech and I breed in the breach of your mind. Be looking for the perfect opportunity and find it. Come on, but but
Yeah.
and this is on that same topic because
Yeah.
I think when it comes to that concept of what it is we purchase and what we buy into, I'm a backtrack a little bit. They did a study years ago about the wealth divided up among the different what do you call them, ethnicities,
Hmm.
and when it came to spending, you know who was number one?
Us.
We pump $1.3 trillion into the economy worldwide.
Wow.
That's more than some nations' gross domestic product.
Wow.
So there's if anybody's ever told us that somebody believed that there's no value in your community, that's a lie. Because if you
Hmm.
believe that, then you would have to ask the nail salon lady why she set up there. You would have to ask the beauty supply why they set up over there. The owner
That's
of the
right.
liquor store why he set up in your community. All right, that's a different concept.
That's right.
But when it comes to us, I think we have kind of been conditioned to be told what we like. Um, there's a weird line where it went from life being life, and we deal with it, and sometimes art comes out of that. Don't push me, cause I'm close to the edge.
Yeah.
To now we have this art that is it's imitating life, but it's not the main idea. This is a subsect. This happens to people, but this is not us. It's not the nature of who we are.
Hmm.
But now it's a it's this cycle. So now you have people who are trying to be these gangsters, and now you went from a generation of people who called themselves NWA to now you got YNs. So and they crash outs. They're self-professed crash dummies. Make that make sense in your mind, young man. So when we have stuff like that, I'm like, man, I can't rock with it. I don't believe that that's us. I think that that's them selling us this image, and we bought it for so long that now we subscribe to the image.
Right.
Tyler Perry is one of the most popular things. I can't stand none of his movies.
I
No,
can't stand
none
it.
of the old ones. I'm sure there's some that's good. I haven't seen all of them to say that they're all bad, but the ones I have seen are so off. It's like, man, okay, let me guess. Let me guess. In this movie, this dude is a deadbeat. Okay, yeah. He seems to be the main character of the movie. Now he like the streets, right? Okay. He gonna die? Is he gonna die? I ain't seen the movie. Why you telling me I've seen the movie? I haven't seen it. I'm just guessing. That's what
Right.
happened in the last six.
Right.
So, I have a problem with things like that where we start to go, okay, nah, this is our culture. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? If you don't like this, you don't like our culture. That's not
Right.
my culture. Black culture. When people say things like black people don't have a culture, it's because the culture we have is not authentic. It was signed off because the 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 Diags, the Emmanuel Dion's, those dudes didn't get the deal. The J. Cole's kind of get pushed to the side, and the Jay-Z's come to the scene. Well, listen, we like what you're doing. It sounds good. It sounds deep. But how about You stick to money, clothes, and women.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We'll give you these things. If only you will bow down and worship these things, we'll give you the whole world. So, we get that. And now our culture is what's the name of the show with the chicks that crash out?
Love and hip hop.
Yeah, that's us. That's you. You don't watch that? What? You you don't watch Baddies? You don't watch you
Real
don't listen to
Housewives.
yeah, like you know what I'm saying. So these are things that they have told us is our culture, and we buy into it. And as long as we're buying into it, they continue to go. Well, they still buying it, so let's keep selling it. So I think when there comes to a point where we stop and opt out, then yeah, man, like they'll realize this is worthless. We need shows like Rock,
Right.
the
Right.
Jeffersons. You know what I'm saying? 227. It was a little ignorant, but there was always a message. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So when we have shows that positively represent us, and we go, oh yeah, that's the kind of brother I want to be. That's the young man that I want my son to be. That's the brother that I want. That's the dad that I'm looking for. Like
Right.
these are the images that we should promote and support and buy in.
Right. Right. And even though you said you was pushing back, you really was saying the same thing. We saying that I'm saying the exact same thing you saying, because
That part.
when we look at it, that 1.7 trillion is not going towards anything positive, because I believe that a book of Clarence flopped, and our 1.7 trillion, when we saw our image, we didn't relate enough to our image to invest towards it. But when we saw Black Panther, however, it couldn't. Even the Avengers didn't stand up. All of them together. Robert Downey Jr. was talking about how his star power and everybody's star power together could not outdo a Black Panther. So when we see ourselves in Wakanda, right, we're quick to go spend that dollar, but when we see ourselves in Jerusalem, we don't want nothing to do with it, and that's the problem. That's the problem. That's where this. That's where the narrative has come into play, and played a major part in our thinking. Um, Brianna said, "That's exactly why I created the environment I did at home. Everything looks like us. My kids' doctors look like us. Beautiful. I'm not even sure my kids know white people can be doctors. That's a beautiful thing, because we need representation in that field. We need representation within law enforcement. We need representation within political. We get a lot of Black people often don't want to be in political positions, but political positions have saved us a number of times. I mean, let's think about Joseph. Let's think about Daniel. These people were high political. These are high political. I don't know their Hebrew names. You can tell me their Hebrew names, but Shadrach, Meshach, and they were
Come on,
they were political people. These were
come on.
political figures who were able to step in the gap and make sure that we are present here today, and that we did not get wiped out, because we were in the loins of the man who was living at that time. And this is a different, little bit different note, but the Lord has saved us through a lot. And if you think about it, right, once you understand who we are, and you understand that we are the people of the book, and that our identity comes with a body of knowledge attached. Just like if you buy a toy and it comes with batteries and it comes with an
Mm.
instruction manual and all of it is packaged together, once you understand who you are, it comes with a package deal. And that's why many of us reject it. But once you accept that, you understand that the Lord brought us through a lot of times. We were in the loins when plagues were happening. We were in the loins of a man. Upon the middle passage, we were in the loins of a man. When they were hanging Negroes, God rest his soul. God bless him. But we have a lot of people. I'm not going to name names, because at first I was, but we have a lot of people that died within that era as kids, and their seed died
Mm.
with them. A nation died with them. And whoever the bodies that were in the loins of that young man never got to see life. And so it is a slap in the face to the most high power when we don't accept this when we don't accept our heritage and our lineage, because we are not accepting everything that he brought us through to bring us to this point right now. And like you said, can't forget about our sister Esther and our brother Mordecai. Absolutely. Absolutely. Political power is necessary. So hopefully this show, my goal is for this show to be able to unravel the onion and get people to thinking and get people to I'm gonna mute you right quick. Get people to I only muted you because there was some feedback coming when I'm talking through your mic. So I had to mute you right quick just while I'm talking. So if you want to say anything, you're more than welcome to come off of mute. Um Brianna says, "What if I told you we're responsible for creating the culture versus accepting what's handed out?" I absolutely, we are responsible, and I think that's a powerful stand to take, because once you take a responsibility, you take your power back. If you always say, I'm in this predicament because of somebody, then you're also by your own admission relinquishing the power to be able to change, because it lies in the hands of somebody else. It does not lie within your hands. And that's why I give credence to the traps that were made, right? I definitely give credence to that, and I give empathy to that as well. I definitely give empathy to those who maybe not have been exposed to anything, but when it's all said and done, when we boil it down to the salt of it, we have to still take accountability, whether it's accountability for what our forefathers have done, and say, you know what, God, please forgive our forefathers, so that we can be relinquished of this mistake, and so that we can start seeing things, because um, we may die, but we continue and we leave. If I live on through my children, and we're one continual body, we're one continual people, we're one continual mind. And not only that, but I would also say that the actions, what we don't understand as being adults, is that a lot of times we don't understand how our actions affect future generations. When you read in the scripture, did you read about Eli, when Eli and his sons? Okay,
Man,
so Eli, so that effect, that priesthood did not get snatched from them until Solomon. That was a generation that had nothing to do with it, right? And me and my wife were just talking about this today. Even if you look at it on the simplest principle, right? I like to deal in the simplest principle, so I can get people to see, and then I pick up that principle and then I move it to other places so that you can see through that lens, right? Unraveling the onion. So, so if a mother commits a crime, right? She sets it off. She robs a bank, and then she's in prison, but she's pregnant. So she gives birth to a baby that is then incarcerated when it is born. Did the baby do anything? Nah. It's suffering the results that happened with the mother. And so what we don't see is our actions affect future generations. Just like when you gave the rat um um experiment, that happened, the rat experiment. They equate it to epigenetics, but epigenetics is not something that is a permanent trap. Epigenetics is something that can be undone with information and with revelation, right? And making a conscious choice on what to do with that information. So, on today, I hope that you all who come across this video, I charge you, and I challenge you to unravel your own onion. Look at how these things have affected you from generation to generation. Look at how you treat others. And do you see yourself as an inferior, or do you see yourself as a superior? right? Because and the reason why I only give those two is because those are the only two choices. When we look at the even when we look at what we would consider race, nobody's equal in a race. So get that out of your mind. So are you below or are you above? And how have you thought of yourself in the likeness thereof? Okay. I really want this exercise calls for you to be completely honest. And with that being said, know who you are and continue to move forward and strive for truth and unravel your own onion. With that being said, thank you so much for coming. For all the guests who have, for Uriel, thank you so much, brother, for joining us and sharing. And
Appreciate you for having me.
before we leave, if you have anything any last words that you want to leave with the people before we sign out, um, this is the time to go ahead and do that as well.
Uh, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go straight to the script. All right.
Go ahead.
Second Thessalonians, chapter 2. Um, I'm gonna start this at verse. I'm gonna start it at verse 8. This is Paul talking about what most people will refer to as the Antichrist, right? It says,
Mhm.
"And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause, God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie." Uh, Man, I think that's
Well,
Selah on that.
yeah, yeah.
It's very.
I think that's a beautiful last word. I think that's a beautiful last word. That's a wonderful way to end. So I thank you so much for coming today, man. And most I bless you and your family and shalom to you.
Likewise, I keep. Shalom.
Shalom.